Good evening and welcome to another staging of VMworld's ongoing investor briefings. This time we are focused on the IPO from Dolla Financial Services Limited, and I must say the most anticipated IPO in quite some time, which is just hours away from opening. I'm particularly pleased for certainly this kind of engagement, which gives us an opportunity to speak directly to all our stakeholders, current clients, potential clients, and most certainly potential shareholders of Dolla Financial Services Limited. The VMworld team is fully committed to providing analysis and information on financial matters because we know that sound judgment and sound knowledge is required for executing on a successful investment strategy. There's a quote from Benjamin Franklin, the mentor for Warren Buffett, when it says, "An investment in knowledge pays the best interest," which certainly captures the value of equipping ourselves with information so that between tonight and tomorrow morning, we can make a very informed decision regarding the IPO and our allocation to the Dolla Financial Services IPO. Very special welcome to the head table, but more special welcome to the CEO of the hour, Kadeen Mears, who is very excited and thrilled to be here to tell you the Dolla story, but also to share with us all about the strategic plan for this organization, not only about the current state, but also about the future state. Our own DJ Dwight Jackson, AVP at Capital Markets at VM Wealth Management, will also indicate to us what's the value proposition, what are the reasons why you should buy this IPO, step by step, whether it be technical analysis, fundamental analysis, or just looking at the picture to say, well, where's the value to be created by this organization. As lead broker and arranger, VMwell stand eagerly, ready, and raring to go to ensure that you participate in this IPO, which is offering 500 million shares on offer. We know that there is lots of interest, enormous interest. On my way here, I got calls from Barbados for persons who are eagerly want to know how can they participate in this product. And rightfully so. Certainly the team will highlight the relevant metrics that we all look at in making a most informed decision. My job here is not to dissect the information. I know nobody's here to listen to me speak, but just to welcome us all, those in the room and those virtually. We hope that at the end of this afternoon or evening's proceedings, that we'll be fully informed regarding the prospects for Dolla Financial Services. And between now and tomorrow morning, we all know that you really have to get in very early, that we're taking the steps now to ensure that we are investing. So thank you very much and welcome. And at this point in time, I will hand over to Mr. Romario Sterling. Romario is the assistant manager in the capital markets unit. Romario?
Thank you for that introduction, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a big moment. Did you know that Dolla Financial now has the record for doing the largest initial public offer on the junior market of the Jamaica Stock Exchange? That's right. They're the first company they're the first company to apply to raise the maximum of $500 million on the junior market. This is a landmark transaction. So with us today, we have some very important people to discuss this offer that has been causing quite a buzz and stir in the financial market. So I'll start with the man of the moment, which is Kadeen Mears, the CEO and founder of Dolla Financial Services. My big boss, Dwight Jackson, the assistant manager of capital markets, the man behind the structure. And Trevine McKenzie, the chief financial officer of Dolla Financial Services, the woman who manages the money. But before we get into the presentation, I just want to remind you that the chat is available, so you can go ahead and ask your questions. And at the end of the presentation, I am sure that you'll get some pointed and comprehensive response to those questions. So without further ado, I'll move on to Dwight Jackson. The moment is now yours, sir.
Thank you, Romario. Let me get myself up because I too am very excited. Good evening, Jamaica. Good evening, viewers. Thank you very much for agreeing to share your afternoon or evening with us. I'm not sure where all our viewers are from, but I'm cognizant that persons are in different locations, and so it might not be evening. So good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're from, welcome. Thank you very much again for spending some time with us as we share with you what we consider the most exciting opportunity on the Jamaica Stock Exchange right now. That's in the form of Dolla Financial Limited initial public offering. So as Romario said, my name is Dwight Jackson. I'm the Assistant Vice President for Capital Markets at VM Wealth. Our primary role is to assist companies like Dolla who want to raise capital on the Jamaica Stock Exchange or do private placement in the debt and equity capital markets. So effectively, like Dolla, where they lend, we help companies raise capital to do whatever it is that they want to do with that capital, whether it's expand, refinance, etc. But Dolla is what is before us. Dolla is what we're excited about. Dolla is the opportunity that has everybody talking, and rightfully so. So what is on offer? Dolla is seeking to raise up to $500 million by offering 500 million of shares. 250 million of those shares will be new shares issued by the company. That capital will be injected in the company to expand its growth, expand its loan portfolio, and another 250 will go towards the selling shareholders. Our selling agents that will be supporting us with the selling effort are Barita, Mayberry Investment, and JMMB Securities Limited. As you are well aware by now, I'm pretty sure you are, the offer opens officially tomorrow. And we encourage persons who have not yet had a chance to read the prospectus or speak to their broker about it to do so urgently if you're interested in the offer. I'm actually very excited not only about the offer, but where we are as a community, and by that I mean investment community. When I see the conversations online, persons are not just talking about buying the shares, persons are talking about reading the prospectus, how well informed they were after reading the prospectus to learn about Dolla's plans both locally and regionally. And that excites me because it tells me that we've come a far way as an investing community. We're cognizant of our responsibilities as investors, to be informed, to read the prospectus, to speak to investment advisors, to get all the information needed to make informed decisions about our investment. And to see that we're there and we're doing that for Dolla gives me so much pleasure to be bringing this opportunity to Jamaica. So at this time, I'm going to hand back over to Romario, our moderator, to help us navigate the rest of this presentation.
All right, thank you for the introduction, Dwight. So at this point in time, we will hand over to the CEO, Kadeen Mears, the man of the hour, to just give you a comprehensive overview of the transaction. He'll start by doing a top-down approach where he gives a fundamental review of the company so that you can become more familiar with Dolla and the strategies that they have planned to accelerate their potential. Kadeen, over to you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Romario. First of all, we'd like to just thank the VM team. Thank you guys so much for believing in us, helping us to get this far. The journey has been a long one. The last couple of months has been a real sprint, and a lot of work was put in to actually get us there. As we can see, there's been a roadmap to get here. The journey started when I was 24, about 8 years ago. I guess I gave away my age there. But it started out as a service to help the people, as a professional banker at a commercial bank. It was really born out of realizing that Jamaica had so much people that were unbanked or close to not getting access to financial services, unbankable or not fully banked at all. So as a loans officer, I would see a lot of customers, being on the road that we would genuinely want to help as a commercial bank, but based on the bank's risk appetite, the bank could not help. And I decided to take the opportunity to start my first microfinance company. And the journey really started then, around 2014. So in 2014, Dolla Financial Services was just purely a cambio, remittance, and bill payments company. By 2016, we would have grown a loan book in Lucy, Hanover, and that loan book was acquired by Dolla Financial Services. At that point, we decided that based on the resources that we had, because the lending business, the inventory is cash. If you don't have cash to lend out, then you cannot offer the service to the public. So we decided to put all the resources that we had to lending and unlending to our clients. So in 2016, we decided to surrender our Cambio license and focus solely on lending or microfinance. By 2018, we managed to grow the company. We managed to grow the company over time. And in the chart is hard to see, but I'll just tell you the journey along the way. We had a lot of struggles, just like a startup trying to get to the point that we are today. And the major problem that we had as a company is the same problem that our customers had: getting access to capital. Tapping the capital markets, whether it's for debt or equity, is difficult for a startup. We managed to get the interest of an investment bank to bring us to a stage. And then further on in 2020, we decided to partner with a private equity company, which is First Rock. First Rock came in and they really helped us to restructure the company, inject some capital in the company. And, as the financial statements will show, that really, bolstered our performance. It took a lot of time and a lot of hard work. And then, by 2020, we're here, for our initial public offering. But last year, I would say 2020 was the year of growth. We managed to raise in a bond 200 million Jamaican, US I wish. Managed to raise 200 million Jamaican along with $1 million US. And we used the opportunity to use that $1 million US to grow our loan book in Guyana. We spent a lot of time in Guyana and other markets to find out if it was a fit for our business, if the culture was aligned, if there was a need for our service. We registered in Guyana in 2018. However, we weren't able to open based on COVID and a lot of restrictions. We managed to open the location in September of last year. And we managed to grow the loan portfolio, little over 100 million Guyanese dollars. And we managed to get the company in a profitable position and have a fully trained team in Guyana with our country manager, our sales team, and that is fully supported by the back office here in Jamaica and the underwriting team. So that has been the journey and the roadmap so far. A lot of people ask, what is it how is the business structured? Basically, Dolla offers loans, and loans can be in two forms. It's either a business loan or a personal loan. And both loans can either be a secured loan or an unsecured loan. And there can be a mix of both. During the pandemic, our delinquency skyrocketed. It was very new to everybody, COVID-19, what it was, how to operate in the business, how to operate a business, how to pivot, We had to go back to the drawing table in terms of trying to mitigate risk and manage the portfolio. And we made a lot of adjustments. We started to look at the industries that we would have had major exposure to, and as well as, loans that were unsecured, and how these unsecured risks might affect our growth potential. So if you look in the prospectus, you see that over 60% of the loan portfolio is secured, and majority of these secured loans are SME loans. And then the segment below that would have been the personal loans, unsecured loans, and then we'd have the micro loans. But we really tried to keep it diverse, keep the portfolio diverse. In terms of revenues from each segment of the business, of course, the secured loans having the majority of the portfolio would have brought in most of the revenues for the business, followed by the personal loan book. Point to add, a lot of persons operating in the space focus a lot on consumer loans. Consumer loans means, they target salary deducted loans, target persons who are, in a 9-to-5, target payroll loans. Dolla is positioned in a different way. Dolla Financial focuses on entrepreneurs mainly, SMEs, micro businesses, businesses that need to get ahead, need bridge financing, and they might have collateral, they might not, but we will do the assessment. And as well as our interest rates are based on the risk that we take, which customers find to be best for them, and we try to stay flexible as well. In terms of our current corporate structure, Dolla Financial is owned by First Rock, as I stated before. First Rock Private Equity. First Rock Private Equity owns 75% of the company, and Equity Capital Management owns 25% of the company. So they are the two primary shareholders currently. Dolla Guyana is a fully owned subsidiary, 100% owned subsidiary of Dolla Jamaica. So that really summarizes our corporate structure there. In terms of the board of directors, who I report to, my bosses, at the head we have Ryan Reed. He's also the head of First Rock, so he chairs the board of directors. We also have Chris Young, who really is the managing director of First Rock PE. Chris has been the man who has been giving us, as a private equity company, for his PE company. He has been giving us a lot of support on the back end, helping us to raise capital, helping us to, look at new countries that we can enter into looking into new strategies. So a lot of times as an entrepreneur, you might get an investor that might just put in the capital and walk away, and they give you, they tell you the results that they want you to provide, so that they can get a return. But it was quite different working with Chris as a director. He was very hands-on in the business and to help it grow. Other directors included Dane Pattison, Lisa Lewis, and Michael Banbury, Dr. Michael Banbury. And myself, I'm a director on board, but I would have been an executive director. As a requirement for the Jamaica Stock Exchange junior market companies, we have to have a mentor, and our mentor is Tanya Gooden, very experienced mentor. She's a mentor for a lot of junior market companies, and this has been stated in the prospectus as well. She's the one who would guide us, in terms of the proper procedures, reporting requirements to the Jamaica Stock Exchange, ensuring that we operate within the framework of the stock exchange. Use of the proceeds. So the financial is raising $500 million. What are we doing with the $500 million? So $250 million of that will be going to the selling shareholders. The selling shareholders will be using this to basically clear any debt or expense that they had incurred in terms of growing the business or getting it to this stage. The remaining $250 to further expand the business across the region and as well as locally through organic growth. For the raise, in terms of expenses from the $500 million, which would include our legal and professional fees, this should not exceed $25 million. So in terms of just the total raise and what the funds will be used for, this really breaks it out. All right, so looking at the industry, according to Jamfin, the research that was done stated that there's over $20 billion that's in credit, in circulation, revolving, and this credit is responsible. This credit was given by microfinance institutions, Research also shows that there's over 200 microfinance companies all over Jamaica, much as which probably 85% of which are actually unregulated. Microfinance companies operate in different spaces. Just like Dolla Financial, we offer financial services or credit to different industries, including, the BPO, which is a business process outsourcing. We have exposure in tourism, retail, construction, as well as micro, small, and medium companies. We all got that? Right, so in terms of the industry overview, that's really where the industry is right now. A popular question that might be asked a lot of times is, what is our competitive advantage? And as I said before, compared to other, microfinance companies who do consumer to business loans and have a greater ratio of their loan portfolio being penetrated on consumer loans, much of our loan book is business to business credit, which is actually very good for the economy, as these people are the people that create jobs and employ people. Another popular question as well that might come up is this new Microcredit Act and the impact on the industry, and particularly what impact it will have on Dolla Financial Services. Now, the new act was passed in January 2021, and they gave all microfinance in the companies an opportunity to, get their shop in order and have everything ready for the deadline, which is July of this year. The regulators would have been Bank of Jamaica, and they would have been the supervisory body that will be, observing the industry, ensuring that the proper oversight is being done. Now, Dolla has been paying a lot of attention to the Microcredit Act. Actually, we're one of the first companies to actually submit our application for a money lending license in early January. The good thing for Dolla Financial Services is that while we were operating as a Cambio in the past, we already had that relationship with the Bank of Jamaica. We already were operating as a regulated entity. We had to be compliant, which we continued. So based on our corporate structure, our corporate governance, the oversight by the board of directors, we have a lot of policies and governance in place when it comes to, transparency, AML policies, and these are the things that the Bank of Jamaica is really looking for microfinance companies to, provide, that transparency to their customers. And the good thing that the Microcredit Act does for a company like Dolla is that it brings more credibility to our industry, more recognition, and more confidence, when we operate, as, individuals will know that we have an oversight body that's ensuring that we are compliant. Guyana. As I said before, we started our operations officially September last year, managed to grow the business to 100 million Guyanese dollars, managed to get it into a profitable position. Granted, it's about 2% of, the revenues, about 2% of our total revenues, but it's growing at a rapid pace. The advantage that we have in Guyana is that we're one of the first movers. Our competition, we don't have any direct competition, even though we might have NGOs, which are more like government bodies that try to offer some form of microfinancing service. This comes with a lot of red tape, and, customers don't like red tape. They like simplicity because that's the greatest form of sophistication. Guyana has been poised for growth. Since the discovery of oil, a lot of persons have been in Guyana. Outside of oil, oil has driven the growth of a lot of other sectors in Guyana, including construction, transportation, real estate. And what we find in Guyana is that we have a lot of customers that are coming in that they need invoice financing because they might have a contract with, ExxonMobil, which is probably the second largest company in the world. So a big company like that down there, giving a lot of jobs to local Guyanese people. In order to take on these jobs, a lot of times these small business owners might need some capital to get the business going, and these are some of the opportunities that we're maximizing on. With the oil boom comes with construction boom, comes with a lot of other booms, and we got the opportunity now to provide a lot of financing as a first mover. In terms of expansion, we'll just continue to patiently grow and be prudent in our lending in Guyana. And we definitely see where our loan book in Guyana will be competing strongly with our loan book in Jamaica.
Over to Trevine McKenzie, who will dive into the numbers and give you some more insights into the financial performance. But I was a little rude. I want to thank Kadeen for that presentation. It was well done, and I'm sure the viewers are well informed about the strategies, the rationale for the strategies of Dolla, and are excited about the future based on what's to come. So Trevine, you can get into your presentation.
Thank you, Romario. So despite the COVID-19 pandemic, Dolla was able to grow its customer base, strengthen its balance sheet, and we are definitely seeing the numbers in the profits. So let's just jump into it. In terms of our total income, we moved 56% between 2020 and 2021, up to 395 million. And we are seeing large movements also on the profit before tax and the loan portfolio growth, moving 858% between 2020 and 2021, and that's on the profits. And looking at the loan portfolio growth, 131%, up to 750 million. Now, what management has done to control the expected credit losses is they have looked at the risk profile of our customers, and in doing that, they have reduced the expected credit losses from 6.9% down to 5.36%, which moves 2% in total. And as you can see, we are looking at the financial ratios, which is our representation, of the financials that we just spoke of. Now, if we take a deep dive into our first quarter, we have done quite well in terms of our total income, moving 120% year on year from March 2021 up to March 2022, landing us at 141 million in terms of total income. Jumping to profit before tax, we are also seeing a 287% movement between March 2021 and March 2022, jumping us at $66 million. Now, consequently in that, we are also seeing movement in total loans as 167%, taking us to 870 million, and beautifully reducing expected credit losses down to 5% year on year. So as we can see, in our first quarter, achieving 66 million in terms of total revenues, we are really poised to get those revenues as at the end of the year. And with this consistent growth and the injection of capital, we really will be doing well going forward.
All right, thank you for that, Trevine. That was Trevine McKenzie, Chief Financial Officer of Dolla Financial Services, and that was a well-done presentation. What stood out to me is the performance year to date. What that says is that this performance of Dolla in 2021 was no fluke. And based on the first quarter and the year-to-date results, they're on their way to exceeding those exceptional results last year. So kudos to Dolla and the team. And now I'll hand over to Dwight Jackson, who will be speaking about some of the key considerations that you, the investor, should take into account in making your investment decision. Dwight Jackson, over to you.
Thank you again, Romario. And thank you very much, Kadeen and Trevine, for the excellent presentation. I think you have set the table, and now we're ready to eat. So we as Dolla, As you can see, we're currently in the market floating an IPO to raise 500 million, which opens tomorrow. As I mentioned before, the offer is seeking to raise the 500, 250 going into the business, 250 going to selling shareholders. The offer is $1 per share, naturally, based on what I've said. And we anticipate that the company will use this capital that will be injected in the business in very much the way that it would have deployed capital raised between 2020 and 2021. And if you dissect the prospectus, you would have been able to deduce the impact the capital raise has had on the performance of Dolla to date. And you can then start to formulate how an additional $250 million could further propel Dolla to achieve even more impressive results. But why is Dolla ready for an IPO? I mean, the numbers, we believe, speaks for themselves. As Romaro mentioned, year to date, Dolla is trading at a PE on a trailing 12-month basis of around 11.6, which puts it relative to some of its peers that are listed at pretty much, from a valuation standpoint, using that multiple at the bottom. So it's priced to go. Effectively, what we're saying, there's a lot of upside in the company based on what the proceeds will be used for. The plans Kadeen articulated so excellently for, not only Guyana, but also Jamaica, and I'm sure, being the serial entrepreneurs they are, other opportunities in the region are currently being explored. When you look at the loan book and how it has grown, that puts Dolla right now, without the addition of the $250 million that they will inject in the company, at third among the listed peers, so well positioned to continue to grow. And as we have said before, when you look at what the loan book has done in terms of profitability, one can start to deduce the further impact additional capital raise will do to the business's bottom line. The ROA and the ROE metrics are just as impressive. We're in a market now where we're seeing interest rates north of 10%. So you want to know that when you're looking at equity type investment, you are getting commensurate return and equity. And right now, Dolla is above 50% as far as that is concerned. ROA is also significantly attractive relative to its peers. And we foresee Dolla being able to continue this trend in the near and medium term, certainly. Efficiency, Dolla is also very efficient. Kadeen mentioned that the expansion in Guyana is really more from a front office standpoint. So the back office will continue to be in Jamaica. This is part of the learning Kadeen spoke to. Being a startup, they had to grapple with some of these ratios being not where they wanted to be, but they would have took significant learning before COVID, during the pandemic, and they would have gotten to the point where they are very, well, I wouldn't say very efficient, but they are relatively, from a comparative standpoint, much more efficient than some of the peers, and they believe that there's room for further improvement here. Net interest margins are also very good, which is something that we would want to pay attention to for a micro lender. Kadeen mentioned that when you look at Dolla's business and you compare it to, say, other micro lenders, they are more B2B, and they are solutions driven. So they target businesses that really want to unlock growth potential that they could with the right type of financing. I mean, I love when he touched on the fact that in Guyana, with companies like ExxonMobil and all of these big companies coming to extract oil, he's now able to offer invoice financing or receivables financing. And this is something that even the World Bank would have identified as a big gap in our financing, both locally and regionally, that is not being filled. And to see Dolla take up the mantle as a micro lender to fill this is not only good from a shareholder standpoint, but also just from a corporate responsibility standpoint in terms of playing a role in filling a need in our financial sector, providing solutions to business so that they can go after growth opportunities is something to be applauded. Net profit margins, they speak for themselves. Again, As I said, just you look at what Dolla's value proposition is. B2B offering products that are tailored to help businesses grow. We can't speak enough about it. I mean, when you look at some of the product, Kadeen talked about the MediPay. He touched on what's the bar product name, Kadeen? Fix Up Your Bar. I mean, the creativity and the ingenuity in coming up with these products, I know it speaks to the people that Kadeen banks is tremendous. And these are the type of credit that is needed to grow these businesses, which are huge employers, huge contributor to our local economy. This is the gap that Dolla is filling. This is where they have carved out a niche, and that would have augured well in their performance. Debt to capital, improving with the equity that we expect to come into the businesses will also continue to improve relative to its peers. And as we say, we anticipate the financial performance to continue at pace. And so this ratio will only serve to further improve. And I'm sure by Kadeen's first AGM, he will be reporting that he would probably be somewhere closer to the top as far as debt to capital is concerned. I mean, price to book, as I said, this will also improve. There is equity coming into the business. The business is growing in profitability. So we anticipate that this will also continue to improve. If I look at Dolla, I see Dolla as a brand. It's such a strong brand for me. It's such a brand that is synonymous with microlending. It has so much brand appeal that it's also hard sometimes to put a value on what that intangible value that the brand has is. And we know behind the brand there is people. Kadeen talked about his story. I know what led him to start to lend to businesses. He identified that there was a gap. And so, it's good to know that they have built a brand, but they have also have the name and the people behind the brand that will support it to get there. So we believe that even right now, there's a lot of goodwill in the brand, and that, is not necessarily being factored here. And so importantly, we think as time goes by and that is leverage, we'll see improvement in the price to book ratio. So these are just a few metrics we wanted to highlight with the investors that are tuned in today to say this is why we think Dolla is ready. They are looking to list on the junior market. There are a lot of benefits that comes with that, and they are going to take full advantage of it to grow much more. And these numbers are only going to improve. I have every confidence, this company is ready to take full advantage of that. And this is why we are, brokering this opportunity. We think the structure is sound. The corporate governance is sound. The mentorship that they will get from Tanya is sound. And, they will have the First Rap brand behind them. They will have the support of Chris. As Kadeen mentioned, it's important not only to be silent investors, and so it was, very good to hear Kadeen speak about Chris's role as far as helping Dolla to unlock its potential. So a lot of learning can be had there when we look at private equity investment. That is not just a financial investment, and as Kadeen put it, setting targets and asking the company to deliver, but to put some hands on it, get on the ground and help the business in ways to become more efficient, adopt agile strategies that will improve its overall performance. So a lot was said, but I think this slide aptly summarizes why we think Dolla is here, why we've seen the recommendations we've seen so far, and why we believe that the performance and the outlook for the company is as strong as we have outlined in our own research publication. So what I want to leave you with, Trevine, the CFO, spoke so well about the performance here for the 2017-2021 period. She spoke importantly about the learnings, how the business would have grown and transformed during that time, and is now well positioned to grow. In that time, this is not, to gloss over, but, delivering a CAGR of 66% while you're transitioning from a startup. You've gone through your first round of financing. You are now tapping the capital markets for debt capital. This is actually significant in terms of a performance for that 5-year period. The portfolio Kadeen spoke to is well diversified. There's also over 60% of the portfolio is secured, so it's weatherproof. We know that weather can be a lot of things that persons are concerned, but Jamaica has been through a recession recently, and importantly, Dolla would have been through that recession and come out of it with the performance that they have delivered today. So that shows you that the company would have learned, like a lot of businesses locally. But what I like is companies that have weathered the pandemic and have done even better since the pandemic. It tells you how much how much potential has been unlocked, how much learning has been had from it, and how much there's future potential to weather similar difficulties should they come. So they have been tried, and they have proven so far that they are able to pass all those tests. I mean, Guyana, 8 locations in Jamaica, suggests that Dolla is so far fairly well diversified, especially when you compare to some of its peers. Guyana is really a gold mine or an oil field. Some people would say, but the opportunities there are tremendous. And as I said, just listening to Kadeen and how he's thinking about opportunities in Guyana. A lot of people, when they think microlending, sometimes do rightly or wrongly think payday loan, but Kadeen's mind is more about supporting businesses as a microlender, which is awesome. And I think those are some of the great opportunities that exist in Guyana. The unbanked, underbanked, we've talked so much about the informal sector as, bankers, as financiers, and the size of that relative to the formal sector. And most of these underbanked or unbanked persons reside within that sector. Most businesses reside within that sector. And these are the opportunities. I know Kadeen mentioned 20 billion has been disbursed. And that's important. That has been disbursed. That's not the size of the opportunity. It's much greater than that. And so Dolla is expected to continue to see significant growth in the near and medium term as they continue to leverage their platform. I mean, as I said, somebody mentioned on Twitter about the 8 branches being primarily Western. I mean, Dolla would have started pretty much out of the West Kadeen touched on. So, you can imagine when they start to touch the urban centers like Kingston, which Kadeen is looking at, with so much enthusiasm. So, that's to come. The company will, of course, as I mentioned, take advantage of the break that you get from listing on the junior market. So 5 years tax-free. The next 5 years, 50% tax. And of course, the awareness. When you're a listed company, I've seen what I call it I know I've used the word listing bias, and my boss correct me and say it's not bias. What I call it listing bias because what I mean by bias is that when an investor gets a chance to own shares, to own stocks in a company, they feel an attachment to do more business, to recommend more business. And we've seen it in more recent times where some of the listings that have happened probably in the last 12 months, they have probably competition that are unlisted. But the awareness and the bias, if I may, that has come from that has propelled those companies to grow their business significantly. And as I said, Dolla being the brand that it is, I expect, it's going to take full advantage of the additional awareness, being able to report, to comply to listing on the stock exchange will also augur well. I mean, this is a company that has a track record of doing that, so this is not going to be a bridge too far or a financial hurdle, but certainly something that Dolla is excited to look forward to in terms of being a challenge. So really some strong positives I think I've highlighted. Really great opportunity for investors. As I said, the offer opens officially tomorrow. I mean, the prospectus would have been published from last week, so hopefully everybody by now would have gotten a chance to read. If you have not, hopefully you get some time tonight, having heard about all the excitement that was shared today. You will get a chance to go over that. And, speak to your broker. You can take up the offer via VM Wealth IPO Edge, which is our platform. So no more paper-based application. Gone are those days, thank God. And of course, we have our selling agents. So we have Mayberry Investments Limited, we have Barita Investments Limited, and we have JMB Securities Limited. So you can speak to your broker, speak to your selling agent, and of course, you can also take up the offer with your selling agents or via VM Wealth IPO Edge. I want to take this opportunity to thank, again, Kadeen, Chris, First Rock Equity for trusting VM to be your broker, to take this opportunity to market, to give Jamaican public a chance to own Dolla for $1, right? So, looking forward to seeing all the investors. We've seen the excitement, we've seen the buzz, and we're just looking forward to executing, listing on the market, and being a public company very soon. Thank you again, and I'll hand back to Romario Sterling.
All right, thank you for that, Dwight, and I just want to thank all the other speakers as well. I think what you got there was a very comprehensive presentation. This is something that we call in the finance industry a top-down approach, right? Where they start by giving you an overview of the environment, impending government regulation and how that could potentially impact the company. Then they look at the company as a standalone entity in terms of its financial performance. And then the CEO delved into the strategies, which is the activities that the company will undertake to actually achieve their growth potential. And then Dwight just touched on the investment positives. And based on just the prospectus that was published, you can expect that kind of quality disclosure to come from Dolla Financial Services once it's a listed company and starts publishing reports on the junior market of the JSE. So with that said, I will now go towards the chat, which I would have started encouraging people to ask questions. So I see a question from Khalil, and that question reads, how is the subscription of the IPO looking so far? Dwight, you want to answer that one?
Well, Khalil, I'm sure, I don't want to be modest, but even though I can't help it sometimes, but I'm not going to be modest in this case. I'm going to tell you that it's going better than even Dolla's wildest expectations.
All right, thank you for that, Dwight. It's causing quite a stir in the financial market. I mean, you can see it on social media. We see it on the blogs where, bloggers are attributing the decline of the junior market to investors liquidating to go into Dolla. And that is something that's very interesting because traditionally, you only see that kind of activity from investors for main market transactions. So to see that for a junior market transaction just speaks to the perception that investors have developed for Dolla based on what has been presented before them in the prospectus. So I'm looking to see if there are any other questions in the chat. Any other questions? If not, I have a question for Kadeen. What plans do the company have in place to execute in the next 12 months post this transaction?
Well, Romario, for the next 12 months, after raising the capital and having that $250 million, we're mainly going to focus on branch expansion and, see how best we can use this capital to actually meet the demand that we currently have. I must say that, to the point that was made earlier, that based on the IPO and the marketing that we got, there's so much more demand for loans now that the brand is out there that, if we could do an IPO 2 times, we would have done it.
Excellent. And I know a lot of investors will be looking forward to that. Those activities over the next 12 months will have a critical role to play in terms of, just the performance of the stock. And I see another question from Damani. Will we see more arrangements like... Could you go back to... Okay, thank you. So will we see more arrangements like DTL, where a company lends Dolla capital and in return, Dolla provides loans to the company employees?
I'd say that our arrangements with Dermon was a very strategic relationship. Dermon operates similar to Dolla Financial, and we see eye to eye in a lot of things. They operate regionally, and so did we. And they basically gave us access to their many different companies so that we could, bridge any financial gap that their employees might have. In terms of the capital that was loaned to us, that was based on them understanding our business, seeing the space that we operate in Guyana, knowing what it's like to operate in Guyana, because you know that Derrimon actually is like one of the largest importers of rice. So they spend a lot of time down there. So if there are two Jamaican businessmen in Guyana, we're going to do business together. So that's a one-off relationship, because typically what we do is tap the capital markets for capital, whether it's through debt or equity, whether it's a private placement, or similar to what's happening now on IPO.
And if I could add to that, Romario. So I think, as Kadeen rightly explained, Derrimon is a one-off, but certainly the opportunity to lend, to work with corporates, to provide loans to their employees is something that Kadeen is working on. He's speaking to other corporates about this, other listed companies. So just to dissect the question, so Derrimon is a one-off, as Kadeen rightly explained, but to add that, you know, working with corporates as a lender is something that Kadeen is working, and I know he's speaking to also other listed companies.
Correct.
Nice. And I mean, what I like about the partnership with Derrimon as well is the industry, because Derrimon is considered a consumer staple. So regardless of the economic cycle, that company usually performs very well. They have a robust business model, and lending to staff that works at Derrimon works well in your favor in terms of, you know, protecting the quality of your assets.
Correct.
So I think that's a very good partnership. So we'll move on to the next question. I see a question from Robert on social media. So with the ongoing talks in the public domain about a possible recession ahead, what impact will this have on Dolla's business?
I mean, a recession, they say that a recession happens, every 10 years? And a pandemic every 100 years? I think a pandemic is much worse than a recession, right? Because you literally have people dying, you know? And, you know, we have to be cognizant of our health and so much more than just, you know, the money in our bank account, which the recession affects the most. Surviving COVID as a business and pivoting and diversifying the portfolio will make us ready for any economic shock that might come up in the near future, whether it's a recession or otherwise.
Agreed. And you can see that being reflected in your strategy in terms of the industries that you actually lend to the people that you lend to, the industries that they work in.
Right.
So that strategy will be important. I see a question from Johan Heaven on YouTube. So good presentation. What is the average interest rate that the company charges on loans in Jamaica and Guyana? And do you expect to sustain these levels into the future?
Well, the good thing for Dolla Financial compared to a commercial bank is, you know, when you hear BOJ increase interest rates, you know that commercial banks will increase their interest rates. The good thing for a company like Dolla is that our method is strictly risk-based pricing. So we look at the profile of the customer and determine what interest rate do we apply. So we might have interest rates that are competing with the bank because the risk is so minimal. But, you know, if somebody comes with a startup and, you know, the saying is that 9 out of 10 startups fail, then that's going to be priced as a riskier loan, hence a higher interest rate loan. So interest rates vary. To be specific, it will compete with bank rates, and it can go a lot higher.
Okay, understood. So it's not a one thing for everybody.
No.
It's dependent on the person. So hopefully that answers your question, Johan. Another question coming from KW on YouTube. How did the company reduce its NPL to gross loan from 12.1 in 2020 to 5.3 in 2021?
Well, I mean, we have, from inception, always operated at a single digit. That's our standard, single digit for non-performing loans. When the pandemic hit, I mean, we didn't know exactly what was happening. We didn't know if the country would have reopened. And what we found was that a lot of our customer base who were possibly exposed to tourism or different segments that were hit, whether they used to, you know, keep parties, whether they used to, you know, work in the craft market. The fact is that if they were our customers, they would have given us a phone call to say that, look, we can't pay because the country shut down. So that drove the rise in 2021, where we were at 12%. Now, what we had to do to get down that delinquency back down to single digit was to actually spend time with the customers, find out what the problems that they were having. And fortunately, over time, people started to adjust to what was happening with the pandemic and started to learn better how to operate within what was happening, as you can see now. And things started to reopen. Customers, businesses would have started again. They would have catch up back on their loan payments. And in some cases, we would have been flexible with customers who were making the effort to give them a refinance if their shop was reopened, for example.
Understood. I think that was a good answer. I see a question from David Rose. Where is Dolla on the spectrum of partnerships with other companies where it's connected, such as what was seen with Derrimon? And I just want to add, before you answer that question, Khalid, the other panelists, if you want to add an answer to the question, just give an indication. All right, go ahead, Khalid.
I mean, the partnership with Derrimon, right? I think it's most popular because it was publicized. We have to recognize that we have a lot of strategic relationships with a lot of corporate companies right across Jamaica, from Negril to Portland. And we're talking about companies that employ 2,000, 3,000 people that would give us exclusivity to their employees. These are the type of relationships that we have built. Of course, we won't disclose that, the names of these companies, but we're there to help their team. We not only lend to these, we're not a company that just targets people to lend money to. We're a type of company where if there's a sports day, we're there on a sports day as Dolla Financial representing with the company employees.
All right, thank you for that, Kadeen. The next question is from David Rose again. Where is Dolla on its technology spend on its website and eventually a mobile application to be located?
Location light. Meaning?
To be location light in light of greater digitization. Thank you for that, Dwight.
I'd say that, obviously we have a website, and the website allows applications or our customers to go online, submit an application, upload their ID, TRN, and that is submitted right to our underwriting department, who makes contact and determines if a loan will be approved or not. In terms of future digitization or investing more in technology is something that we're definitely looking into once our customers, once we do a survey and our customers say, hey, look, we want an app, because it's one thing to make an app and nobody uses it. So we have to look at what our customers need. If that's what our customers need, then we make the investment.
Okay, I think that's a good approach. So assessing the client profile before you go ahead and make that big spend, and then it turns out that most of them are not technologically savvy, and it's a waste of resources.
Yeah, and the truth is it's not always about being savvy. I have mobile banking apps and I still go on the website, so it's all about the preference of the customers. So that's why it's very important to maintain a close relationship and take the feedback of our customers seriously.
Okay, makes sense.
And just to add to that too, Kadeen, a lot of our customers love the walk-in. They love the interaction and they love to feel it. So that's really our customer base, and being location light at the moment may not be such a good idea, but as Kadeen said, we need to feel it and understand what the customer needs.
I totally support. Dolla is still growing. If you look at the footprint, it's predominantly west going east. So I think as Dolla builds out that presence, then it can use that to start to convert some of those customers to being online. But that presence is needed to bring them in. And then once you have them in the ecosystem, then they can start to use that to digitize, their offering and allow those customers to use more digital type processes to get access to the service.
From Kirk Douglas. And that one is directed to Kadeen as well as me, but I'll allow Kadeen to answer. What is the strategy to combat the expected decline in appetite for credit in a high interest rate environment?
I'd say, contrary to popular belief, a recession also brings opportunities. and we might be in the office and somebody comes in to say, and in a recession, cash is the greatest asset in a recession, which is our inventory. So we might see more people coming in to say, hey, look, there's an opportunity to buy a competitor's business. There's an opportunity to buy this property at a good price. Can you finance this for us? So based on the diversity of debt financing or interest rate as well, it's not affected directly by what the rates are at the commercial banks or what BOJ has set in terms of interest rates. So we're not anticipating much decline in the demand for loans if there should be a recession.
Mm-hmm. And I like that response, Kadeen, because as you say, you're not competing with the traditional banks. Your interest rate spread is already very good based on the industry that you're in. And furthermore, in 2020, the BOJ would have started to raise rates, would have been raising rates, and your numbers still improved during that period.
Correct.
I say you didn't see a decline in the appetite for loans then, and I guess based on where we are, because this recession is a probability, right, based on what's happening globally. And based on where we are now, the environment is still a little bit better than 2020.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to that, we have to remember, just to add to that, Romario, we have to remember that, we're in a business to take risk with our customers. And put it this way, in a hypothetical situation, if interest rates are high and the banks increase their interest rates from 10% to 15%, and we were at 25%, we are going to stay at 25% with the same requirements to get that loan. However, if a customer goes to the bank in a recession, the bank might not lend at all because they're going to say it's a recession, right? And then you have to go through the rigorous underwriting requirements that the bank might ask. So you might see a lot of customers actually pouring into our industry actually during a recession because the banks will tighten their lending if a recession is to hit.
Thank you for that, Kadeen. And we have time for about 3 more questions. I'll take the first of the 3. What are the plans to sustain long-term value creation in a very crowded market?
That's my question?
Yes, that's your question.
Okay. So, I mean, contrary to popular belief, the market is not crowded. Based on the last data I saw, underbanked or unbanked population is about 70%, right? Based on the last stats that I saw, persons who contribute to NHT and say PAYE, these are people who are part of the formal, they account for about 250,000 people in a country of 3 million people. Mm-hmm. So if 70% of that is unaccounted for, that leaves us with approximately 700,000 people who need access to financing. If my greatest competitor has 20,000 customers, that means that they barely probably have a penetration of 2% of the market that exists. Mm-hmm. So not because you see that there is a loan office here and there's a competitor down the road, nobody opens new businesses and compete if there's not a demand. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So
and that's a good point, because sometimes we can go off what we see. Because you see one thing and you think that's the norm, but that's the norm based on your circumstances, But when you look at the actual data, you realize that what you're thinking doesn't actually matches back to the data. So that's why it's always good to stick to the numbers.
Correct.
Rather than, assuming. So I like that response. I like the fact that you had the statistics to back that up. All right, so I see a question from YT. Can you speak to your collection policy and how you will ramp up collection?
We don't ramp up collection. We have always been very proactive in our collections method versus reactive. I can say that, I've learned a lot while I was at the bank. And, one of the shortfalls, unfortunately, is that for cost cutting, lenders don't hire a delinquency officer for a branch until delinquency goes bad. That's being reactive. Right? You need to start tracking delinquency from the moment that money leaves your bank account and leaves the door, so that if a customer is late, you can call the customer and find out, are you having a challenge? What's going on? When you do that with that proactive approach, you actually can stem a loan from going into bad debt versus waiting for 90 days before you try to find out exactly what's happening with a customer. So based on our approach, and I mean the numbers speak again, the industry standard for our industry is about 15-20%, which is acceptable. Not acceptable for us because we stick to single digit, and we have put in place the structure and the methods to ensure that we stay single digits. So we won't have to be ramping up. We should always be on top of collections.
Approach.
Correct.
You don't allow it to, fester. You take action before you see it develops into anything, disastrous.
Correct.
Excellent. And then the last question. Based on the nature of the company, liquidity is extremely important. Will Dolla do an IPO to have enough cash to cater to the future demand now that it is now a brand name?
Well, I think I should speak to my investment bankers, VM Wealth, about IPO. They will advise if that's that would be good.
Yeah.
I mean, the truth is that's a very, very good question, very good statement actually, because we will continue to lend, we will continue to grow, and we will need more capital to continue to grow. So at some point, we will need to tap the market again, whether it's for equity again through an IPO or through, for example, a pref share in the form of debt or a bond in the form of debt. So definitely, based on the growth, shareholders are going to want growth. So if I give them the growth, that means we're going to need more capital. So we'll just see how the next 3 to 6 months plays out. And us tapping the market for further capital is a significant indicator that there was or is tremendous growth and serious potential.
Basically will mean that you need more capital
Correct.
to lend, because how Dolla works is that they access capital from the capital markets to lend to their customers. They do is not a bank, so there are no deposits. So it has to come from an investor, whether it be directly from a company or from a group of investors like yourselves, right? All right, so we have a lot of questions in the chat. However, the time doesn't allow us to go through all of them. So in the interest of time, we have to stop, unfortunately. But we will answer those questions directly, and you can always reach out to us at VM Wealth. You can always reach out to us at VM Wealth to answer, and we will definitely give you responses to these questions. So thank you for joining us. This was a very comprehensive presentation, in my opinion. And I want to just speak to the fact that, VM is very passionate about this transaction. Just a quick little knowledge for you. So this is the second microfinancial institution that VM is bringing to market. So once this offer is successful, it would mean that of the 4 microfinancial institutions listed on the JSE, VM has done 2. So that kind of shows how committed we are as it relates to inclusion. So we are happy. And now I'll hand over to Sharon to close the presentation and also give some details on how you can actually subscribe to this offer.
CEO of Dolla Financial Services. Dolla was formed to open doors. Our mission is to make getting the money you need a quick and easy process. When life comes at you fast, you can count on us in your time of need. We provide financial services for those with a vision and those on a mission. No matter if it's a business loan or personal loan, small or medium, once you want to grow, we lend. Over the past 7 years, Dolla has played a vital role in the microfinance market, disbursing more than $3 billion in loans to more than 5,000 Jamaicans. We will continue to play our part in the growth and development of Jamaica and the Caribbean by providing financing support to all entrepreneurs. Whether it's a short-term loan until your next payday or a long-term business loan, visit us at Dolla Financial Services. Remember, we lend.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Am I on? I am sure that you would agree with me that that was a boatload of information, and that anyone who was on this call this evening would have all of the information that you would need to subscribe. I don't think there's any doubt at this point as to the validity of the decision that VM Wealth took to bring this company to market. There is no doubt about the past performance and the future prospects of Dolla. And we are really delighted to be partnering with this organization to bring this IPO to market. So the only thing left for me to do really is to remind you of how easy and simple it is to subscribe to this IPO. As your lead broker, we have at your disposal a platform, a digital platform called IPO Edge, which will accommodate all of your subscriptions. You can use it if you are a new or existing equity holder. You can use it if you have your account at VM Wealth or if you have it with another broker. It accommodates all modes of payment. We're asking you, please, to pay careful attention to the details for routing the communication, the payment confirmation to us. You need to ensure that you are paying the exact amount indicated on the portal and that you send the funds to the account indicated. Please also remember to tell us the name of the applicant, your JCSD number, and the name indicate that this is an offer for Dolla. And this platform also gives you have access to help. So it's super easy to subscribe via the VM IPO Edge. But there is more. We have partnered as well with 3 other entities as selling agents, and they also have online portals. You can do your Jamaica Money Market Brokers, Barita Investments Limited, and Mayberry Investments Limited. Remember that the information doesn't stop here because you can go back to the websites for VM Wealth and Dolla and the Jamaica Stock Exchange to view the prospectus. Any query that you have that you want us to address can be sent to wealthinfo@myvmgroup.com. We look forward to your subscriptions and we look forward to onboarding you as a subscriber to this IPO. I use this opportunity also to thank both the teams at Dolla and VM, the entire customer and brand and corporate affairs and communications team that partnered with us to produce this event this evening. We're also very grateful for the support from our media partners and the digital team that worked in the background to ensure that you had a seamless experience. Again, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to onboarding you as a subscriber to this IPO. Good evening.